This happened a week ago. I'm 34 now, and I thought a weekend in a cabin would help me finish my work project. I'd been stuck at home too long, so I rented a little place deep in the woods. I imagined it'd be peaceful. I imagined I'd get a break from my hectic routine. I've never had an experience like this, and I can't stop thinking about it. The first night was normal. I set up my laptop and got to work. The cabin was quiet, just the sound of my fingers tapping on the keys. I heard the wind rustling the leaves outside. The fresh air flowed through the open windows, and I felt comfortable. But then, around midnight, I heard something. It started as a soft noise outside. I thought it was the wind or maybe a deer. It sounded like branches scratching against the cabin. I brushed it off. Then it happened again, and it was louder. I felt a chill. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, maybe a tree branch, just nature making noise. But as the night went on, the scratching didn't stop. Finally, I took a break and stood by the window. I peered into the darkness, but saw nothing. I tried to focus on my work, but my heart raced. Maybe I shouldn't have come alone. I shook the thought away. Then I heard footsteps outside. It sounded too clear, like someone walking around. My pulse quickened. I thought maybe it was just an animal. But then I could have sworn I heard a voice calling my name. Jake! It was faint, like a whisper carried on the wind. I froze. I was alone, right? I grabbed my phone, unsure if I should call someone or just get back to work. The shadows from the fireplace began to shift. They twisted and turned. I thought I was seeing things. I glanced at the window and noticed the blinds move, as if someone was peering in. I held my breath, peeking through the glass. No one. Just darkness. But I felt like something was out there. My breathing got loud and panicked. What was happening? I didn't know if I should stay put or grab my things and leave. The cabin felt both familiar and strange. I glanced at the door. Should I go out? Fear kept me rooted to the spot. Then it came again, louder this time. I couldn't tell if it was footsteps or something worse. My heart raced in my chest. I barely moved. I stared at the door, my mind racing. What is out there? I whispered to myself. Then the last thing I heard made my blood freeze. A voice right outside calmly asked, "Why are you here?" I turned around, heart pounding. I was utterly alone. I stood there frozen, my breath caught in my throat. "Why are you here?" echoed in my mind, and I couldn't shake the dread creeping in. I wanted to scream or run, but my limbs felt heavy. I took a step back from the window, hoping whatever was outside would just leave. Seconds felt like hours. I strained to hear any sound, any sign of movement, but the cabin was silent again, as if the world outside held its breath. Maybe it was just my imagination, I told myself. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I glanced around the cabin. The old wooden beams seemed to loom over me, the shadows stretching in unnatural ways. I needed to know if there really was something out there. I crept back to the window, my heart pounding louder than before. I peeked outside again. Nothing but darkness and trees, their silhouettes twisted by the moonlight. Just as I started to turn away, I caught a glimpse of movement. My breath hitched. There, among the trees, was a figure. It stood still, hardly noticeable against the backdrop of night. My heart dropped. Was it watching me? I couldn't tell. Then it started moving, slowly, gliding between the trees. I felt a surge of panic, a primal instinct to run, but I forced myself to stay still. I needed to know what it was. Suddenly, I remembered something. I had brought a flashlight. How could I have forgotten? I rushed to my bag, fumbling through my things until I found it. My hands shook as I turned the flashlight on. The beam cut through the darkness, and I aimed it toward the figure. But it was gone. My stomach dropped. Where did it go? I scanned the area, my heart racing. What am I doing? I muttered under my breath. I wanted to feel brave, but fear gripped me tightly. What if it wasn't just an animal? What if someone was out there? Just as I was about to retreat back inside, I heard it again, a soft voice, clearer this time. "Jake, come out." It was that same haunting whisper. This time, it had a pleading tone. I shivered. How did it know my name? I hesitated, torn between fear and a strange, heavy curiosity. I wished I had someone with me, anyone to share in this horror. But I was alone. Gathering what little courage I had left, I stepped outside, the cool air wrapping around me. The night was alive with sounds, rustling leaves, distant animals, and that voice calling softly. Each step I took felt like a dance with danger. The flashlight beam flickered as I walked further into the dark. My heart raced in rhythm with my footsteps, each crackle of twigs beneath my shoes, sending chills down my spine. And then I saw it. The figure I had glimpsed before stood a few yards away, just out of reach of my light. I couldn't see its face, but I felt its gaze. "Why are you here?" it asked again, the same chilling question. This was no simple curiosity. Something was very wrong. I had to know why this was happening. I took a step closer, my pulse drumming in my ears. That's when I noticed something in the ground. A pattern. A circle drawn in the dirt, surrounded by strange markings. I stumbled back and froze. "What's going on?" I whispered to myself, my mind racing. I wanted to turn and run, but I felt compelled to stay. Then I heard laughter, low and eerie, echoing in the night. It didn't come from the figure, but from somewhere else. Panic gripped me as I realized I wasn't alone in this haunting place. I needed to get back to the cabin. But as I turned to run, everything went dark. I gasped and staggered back, feeling for the ground beneath my feet. It was disorienting, as if I had been plunged into a void, surrounded by nothing but a thick blanket of darkness. For a moment, fear clutched at my throat, and I was paralyzed. Then a flicker of light illuminated my surroundings. It was my flashlight, somehow still clutched in my hand. I aimed it downward, the beam cutting through the dark. The circle in the dirt was still there, but now it seemed to pulse, glimmering faintly as if alive. "Jake!" the voice called again, now sounding further away. It was soft, almost desperate. My stomach tightened in response. I could feel an unseen presence lingering around me, something sinister hiding just beyond the edges of my light. Heart pounding, I shined the flashlight in all directions, but the beam barely pushed back against the night. I realized I was completely alone, except for that voice. "What do you want?" I shouted, hoping to convey the anger that accompanied my fear. The only answer was the rustling of leaves and the distant sounds of the woods, which made the silence feel thicker. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I had run this far out of instinct, but I couldn't just cower in the dark. I had to make a choice. Stay here and wait for I knew not what, or head back toward the cabin. Another whispered plea danced through the air. "Jake." The hairs on my neck stood on end, and I felt a surge of determination. I bolted toward the cabin. The beam of my flashlight wavered, casting erratic shadows on the trees around me. Each step felt heavy, grounded by dread, as if the earth itself wanted to hold me back. Then I heard it again. The laughter. It was louder now, coming from the woods surrounding me. It was a cruel sound, dripping with malice. My heart raced in response, and I forced my legs to move faster. I had to make it back. Just as the cabin came into view, I felt a rush of wind whip past me. The air felt charged, like static before a storm. I didn't look back. I could sense the weight of eyes on me. I burst through the cabin door, slamming it shut behind me, and locked it tight. My breaths came in short gasps, but the laughter didn't stop. It echoed through the walls, filling the cramped space with a feeling of suffocation. I turned to look out through the small window, half expecting to see the figure again, but it remained dark. I stumbled away from the window and toward the kitchen, desperate for something solid to hold on to. In the dim light, I spotted a small wooden cabinet and opened it, hoping for a weapon or at least a distraction. Instead, I found something unexpected, an old journal. I flipped it open, scanning the yellowed pages. My heart dropped when I read the first line, "The one who calls you by name will not let you go." Was this a warning? I felt a chill creep down my spine as I realized the connection between the voice and the journal. I clutched the book tightly, knowing that I had stepped into something far beyond my understanding. That's when I heard the knock. It was soft at first, a gentle rap against the cabin door, then another and another, gradually building in urgency. My breath caught in my throat again. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. I stood frozen, torn between fear and the need to uncover the truth hidden in the pages of the journal. I held my breath, the journal trembling in my hands. The knocking continued, becoming more insistent, but my mind raced. What had I stumbled into? I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. What if I opened that door? I took a step back, nearly tripping over a chair. The sudden thump against the floor shocked me back to reality. I needed to think. I glanced back at the cabinet where I found the journal, looking for something else, anything else. But the space felt empty. The knocking stopped, replaced by an eerie silence that made my skin crawl. I squeezed the journal tightly, searching its pages for any clue, but words began to blur. Just when I thought I had a moment of reprieve, I heard it, a faint whisper just beyond the door. "Jake." I swallowed hard. My name echoed in my ears. How could it know my name? It was a trick, I told myself. I forced my heart to steady, searching for another route. The cabin wasn't large, and the only exits were the front door and the small back door leading to the woods. "Jake, let me in." The voice pleaded again, sounding desperate. It was almost familiar, like the distant echo of someone I once knew. I glanced at the window. From my limited view, I couldn't see anything outside. The moonlight barely broke through the clouds, and shadows danced eerily among the trees. I wanted to trust that voice, but I felt that something was terribly wrong. Then I heard it, a rustling sound from outside, closer this time. My instinct screamed at me to hide, to find some place where whatever was out there couldn't touch me. I rushed to the living room corner and crouched behind a worn-down sofa, still clutching the journal. The back door creaked, and I froze. It wasn't locked. Had I left it open? My heart raced as I imagined what could be coming inside. The whispers grew louder, filling the cabin with a haunting chorus. "Jake, let us share your shadows." The shadows. That's where this all began. I slowly opened the journal again. My fingers brushed against one of the pages, and I inhaled sharply. There was a drawing of a figure, dark and looming, with sunken eyes. Below it, words scrawled hastily, "Beware the whisperer who knows you." Then I heard it, a crash, sharp and sudden, followed by the unmistakable sound of glass shattering. It sent a surge of adrenaline through me. Someone had broken in. I couldn't hold back anymore. I pushed myself up and bolted to the front door. The urgency of the moment pushed me forward, far from the safety of my hiding spot. I had to confront whatever was inside. Just as I reached for the knob, the laughter returned, this time mixed with an unsettling cry. The door trembled under heavy pounding. It felt like everything around me was closing in, and I knew I had to make a decision. Open that door and face the unknown, or run and gamble with the shadows. That's when the front door burst open, revealing darkness, and in that darkness I saw the outline of something moving. The figure lurched forward, stepping into the dim light. My heart sank as I tried to make out its features. It was tall and gaunt, with long limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally. For a moment I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but my voice betrayed me, caught in my throat. "Jake," it whispered again, the voice soft yet dripping with malice. "I finally found you." I stumbled back, crashing into the corner of the room. The journal slipped from my fingers and hit the floor. The figure advanced, shadows swirling around it like a dark cloak. My instinct screamed at me to run. "Stay away from me!" I choked out as I crouched lower. I glanced back at the broken window. The glass glinted menacingly on the floor, a sharp reminder of the danger now in my home. It paused, tilting its head as if considering me. "You've kept us waiting inside those pages. We want to play." Suddenly, the shadows around it thickened, like they were alive, reaching for me. I shoved myself away from the wall, scrambling toward the kitchen. Maybe I could find something to use as a weapon. The back door was too far, and the front door was now an escape route, blocked by the nightmare that was closing in. I yanked open the kitchen drawer, my hands shaking. I wanted a knife, anything that could help me fight back. But all I found were spoons and dead light bulbs. Rounding on the intruder, I shouted, "I won't let you take me!" The figure only laughed, a sound that twisted my stomach in knots. Its laughter echoed through the cabin, mixing with that faint whisper, amplifying the horror inside my head. Then I heard a sudden pop, the sound of a bulb above me bursting, plunging the kitchen into darkness. Panic surged through me as I groped around, desperate to find anything that could help. I slid my hands along the counter, searching blindly. "Jake," it crooned, "just give in." "Get away!" I shouted again. In the faint sounds of the cabin, I could hear the soft rustling of fabric. It was closing in. With no other option in sight, I grabbed a heavy frying pan from the counter, my fingers wrapping tightly around its handle. The shadows swirled and stretched, thickening and darkening the corners of the room. I stepped back until I hit the wall and felt the panic rise again. I needed light. As I struggled to steady myself, the floorboards creaked like something was shifting beneath them. The laughter turned into a deep growl, resonating through the cabin. The walls felt alive, as if they were breathing, closing in with each second. "Let us out," the voice said, somehow coming from deeper within the walls. That's when I noticed a crack opening in the opposite wall, a sliver of darkness widening with every breath I took. My heart sank. It was a way out for them, an escape that would lead to more terror. I had to make a choice, and I had to make it fast. Before I could think twice, I moved through the darkness toward the cracked wall, my frying pan raised high. Whatever was inside wouldn't just take me. I'd fight to keep myself free, even if it meant facing the horrors they'd conjured. But just as I reached the crack, something shot out of it, a tendril of shadow reaching for my arm. At that moment I realized I had underestimated how deep this nightmare truly ran. I barely had a moment to react. My instincts kicked in as I swung the frying pan wildly, connecting with the shadowy tendril. The impact sent a ripple through it, but it didn't dissolve. Instead, the darkness simply thickened and pulled back slightly, revealing a flicker of something within, a swirling shape that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. "Let us in!" the voice shrieked, louder now, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I took a step back, a wave of dread washing over me. Was it mocking me? I couldn't stay here. My gaze darted around the kitchen for another exit, any glimmer of natural light. The back door loomed in my mind, but the figure was still blocking my way. I turned back to the crack. If they were trying to break free, that meant they were desperate. Maybe I could use that to my advantage. The pan felt heavy and comforting in my grip, but I knew only a moment of distraction would be enough for me to run. "Get away from me!" I yelled again, using every ounce of defiance I could muster. I burst forward, lunging toward the crack again, hoping to break free from this room of horrors. But at the same moment, the figure sprang forward, almost gliding across the floor. I swung the frying pan again, catching a glimpse of its face. It was a distortion, a mockery of a human form. My stomach churned. I didn't want to see it, but I had no choice. I couldn't let fear control me. I needed to make my move. The tendril darted toward me again, but I sidestepped, carefully calculating my next swing. With a grunt, I swung down hard, feeling the weight connect again. This time it reared back, dissipating into a cloud of dark smoke that hung in the air for just a moment before swirling around the room, as if searching for a new target. In that brief respite, I bolted toward the back door. My heart thudded in my chest as I fumbled with the doorknob. It was locked. Of course, it was locked. A surge of panic swept through me. I glanced back, and the figure was reforming out of the darkness, its laugh echoing like a jagged knife through my skin. "Let us out," it hissed, and I could see the tendril lunging toward me again, this time with greater force. I turned back to the door, squeezing the handle harder, desperate. I had to escape. My mind raced. There had to be a way. Then I remembered the broken window in the front room. It wouldn't be easy, but it was my chance. I sprinted back, looking over my shoulder. The figure was gaining on me. Curiosity piqued, watching me with interest. It was toying with me. I felt a rush of adrenaline. Fear transformed into resolve. When I reached the living room, I skidded to a halt. Shards of glass lay scattered beneath the window. It was a gamble, but I could do it. I had to. I ran to the window, shifting my weight to help propel myself through, but that's when I noticed it, my journal, torn and opened, lying on the floor. The pages flipped in an unseen wind, revealing something scratched hastily inside. I barely had time to read it. "To escape, you must turn the pages." That was it? Just end the game? Behind me, the figure stalked closer, shrouded in thick shadows, whispering in that chilling voice, "Let us out, Jake." I had no choice. I grabbed the journal and raced back to the kitchen, flipping through the pages, my fingers trembling. The next entry caught my breath. It offered a riddle, a way to trap the darkness, but could I really trust it? And then, just as I felt the air around me thicken with dread, I heard a loud bang from the inside of the cracked wall. Someone or something was trying to break out. The sound echoed in my ears, a harsh reminder that I was not alone. My heart raced again, beating like a drum in the silence that followed the crash. I clutched the journal tighter, scanning the walls for signs of movement. The figure behind me seemed to pause, a shadow lingering where light dared not touch. "Let us out," the voice cried once more, but the tone had changed. It was frantic now, desperate, as if panic had corrupted its clarity. The tendril flicked and twisted, eager to close the distance. Without thinking, I whipped around and swung the frying pan again, but this time it was to give myself space. I had to figure out what was happening with the wall. I stepped closer, the faint sounds from behind the cracked surface growing louder. The thuds were now consistent, purposeful. It felt like someone or something was trying to escape, just like me. The journal still lay open in my hands. "Turn the pages," I muttered under my breath, desperation shifting into resolve. I flipped through the thin sheets, my fingers trembling, searching for more guidance. The print was fading, barely legible in places, but I focused harder. Then I saw it. In the margin of the following entry, there were symbols, a series of lines and curves caught in a frantic scrawl. It looked almost like a map or a diagram. I glanced back to the wall, where the sounds had ceased for a moment, creating a heavy silence again. That fear crept back, wrapping around me like a cold blanket. The air felt charged, thickening as I pieced together what I saw. The words whispered at the edge of my mind, "To trap darkness, you must bind it with light." But how? I needed light. I roamed the room, scanning for anything I could use. The countertops were bare, save for a few stale crumbs. But the window, the sunlight streaming in from the glass shards, seemed like my only source of hope. I dashed back toward the window, urgency driving every step. But as I reached for the sunlight, a crashing sound erupted from the wall behind me, louder this time and more violent. The tendril lunged, flicking dangerously close, its grasp coming within inches of my arm. I spun around, adrenaline coursing through my veins. The figure was reforming with blinding speed, and its distorted face twisted in anger. I needed to act. With a surge of courage, I held the journal up to the light, positioning it in front of the window. I flipped through the pages again, desperation turning into determination. I found the entry about capturing shadows. Use your voice. Channel your fear, it instructed. With nothing to lose, I shouted the words, "You can't take me! You have no power here!" For a moment, nothing happened. The silence was unbearable. Then the shadows flickered, shuddering back. I felt a strange warmth with the sunlight behind me, illuminating the room. The figure screeched, its form wavering, but it wasn't enough. I had to do more. My hands trembled as I flipped another page, searching for any more clues, anything that could help. That's when I saw it, a warning about the wall. The crack binds them. The answer lies within. My mind raced. What could be within? As I felt a new urgency, the sounds returned, growing frantic, relentless. It was time to act, time to break the seal of this darkness. I turned back toward the wall, determination surging through me, and that's when I noticed a glimmer of movement just beneath the surface. Something was trying to break through just like me. I had to decide. Would I confront whatever lay inside? I took a deep breath, my resolve solidifying. Could it be a friend trapped behind the wall, or was it another menace ready to pounce? Either way, I had to confront it. I moved closer, peering at the crack, my heart pounding in my chest. The outline of a figure shifted against the darkness, a disembodied echo of the shadow I'd just faced. Another cry erupted, muffled but clearer than before. "Help me, please! Who are you?" I called out, half expecting the tendril to lunge again. "What's happening?" Silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I almost turned away, but then a gentle glow began to emit from the crack. I squinted, the light flickering like a heartbeat, beckoning me. The thumping from behind grew louder, more desperate, locked away, trapped in pain. In a surge of instinct, I grabbed the frying pan and struck the wall. A sharp crack resounded, echoing like thunder. "Stop!" The words slipped out of me. "I'm trying to help." As if in response, the glow intensified, forcing me to shield my eyes. There was warmth, a tantalizing light illuminating the space around me. I had to absorb it, to let it guide me. I could feel a shift in the air. The shadows receded further away from the brightness. Then my instincts shifted. This wasn't just about fear anymore. It was about connection. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the voices mingling in my mind. "Just hold on. I'll find a way to break this." A sudden warmth enveloped my fingers. I opened my eyes to find the journal glowing, its pages alive with energy. The entries had transformed, the symbols now pulsed, each one lighting up as if begging to be released. What do I do? Before I could process my next steps, movement erupted in the corner of the room. A darker shadow clawed its way towards the light, hissing as it recoiled from the brightness. Whatever was behind the wall thrummed with urgency, shouting louder, desperate to escape. "Get back!" I shouted, swinging the frying pan again, my vision narrowing on the shadow creeping closer. The figure inched forward, fingers stretching through the crack as if yearning for release. "I need to know who you are. Are you trying to help?" "Foolish girl," the shadowed figure hissed, its voice a chilling whisper. "You're not prepared for what's inside. You have no idea." I cut it off. "No, you're not taking me. I will find a way to save you." The wall shuddered beneath my touch, and the symbols surged with even more light. A bright flash erupted, bathing the room in radiance. I stumbled back, feeling the heat wash over me. From the wall, the figure withdrew slightly, the brightness forcing it to shy away. The tension grew as the glow coalesced into a shape. A woman appeared in the light, her features blurred but familiar. I strained to recognize her until she spoke again. "You must choose, don't let them win." A sense of dread unfurled in my stomach. "Choose what?" I demanded, my voice trembling. But before I could get an answer, the shadows surged back with a roar, desperate to consume all. "It's now or never," the voice cried, almost drowned out by the chaos. I gripped the journal tighter, realizing that this moment held all the power to either save or doom us both. The decision surged through my veins like fire. I had to act quickly. And yet, behind the woman's shadow, something darker writhed, brewing a new threat from the very essence of the wall itself. The glow flickered again, demanding my complete attention. With every heartbeat, the weight of the choice pressed down on me. What was lurking just beneath the surface? Would I gamble on a flicker of hope or retreat into the shadows? I staggered back, my mind racing as I struggled to process what just happened. The light was mesmerizing, but it was fading fast. The woman's eyes, while blurred, seemed to implore me to act. I took a step forward, practically leaving my fear behind. "Choose what?" I shouted into the cacophony. The shadows hissed louder, threatening to drown out my questions. My heart raced as the glowing journal pulsed in my grasp, begging for my attention. I was surrounded by chaos and uncertainty, but the glowing words whispered a challenge. "Help me." The weight of the frying pan felt heavy in my hand, but I realized it wasn't the weapon I needed. I looked down to the journal. Covering the pages were symbols that now throbbed in sync with the urgency of the moment. "What do I need to do?" I whispered, desperate. That's when I saw it, a symbol on the page, one that shone brighter than the others. It looked like a key with intricate designs trailing off into the air. "A key," I murmured, trying to piece together how it connected to what lay buried beyond the wall. I glanced back at the crack. The shadow was creeping closer again, and I felt a chill run down my spine as it trailed a dark mist. "You don't have to do this!" The figure shrieked, its voice laced with a grotesque blend of anger and desperation. "Just walk away." "No!" I shouted back, the fire in my chest igniting. "I won't let you trap someone else." I no longer hesitated. I swung the journal over the crack, channeling my energy into the symbol. The air crackled and swirled. I shouted, "Open!" The journal shot vibrant light like a beacon. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. I felt the warmth seep into me, filling my limbs with energy. Then instantly I realized it wasn't just about the shadows or the woman. It was about me, my strength, my ability to confront the darkness. But in that moment of clarity, the woman's voice rang out clearer than before. "There's a price, beware!" It dawned on me too late. The shadows seemed to coalesce into a mass and surge toward me, no longer just whispering threats, but screaming as they lunged. "You'll regret this choice." Before I could react, the crack widened, pulling me forward as if the wall itself had bifurcated. It felt like being sucked through a vortex of shadows and light. I shattered through the barrier, my surroundings shifting wildly. I stumbled into an alternate reality, a realm that mirrored my own, but felt laced with static energy. Colors swirled chaotically, and I could see shadows lingering in the corners, watching, waiting. What did I just step into? Trying to find my footing, I saw figures resembling the woman flickering among the shadows. A sense of dread washed over me. "I didn't want this," I yelled, but my voice echoed back, taunting me. Now I stood at a crossroads, with new truths emerging and dreadful consequences lurking. The shadows had shifted, but so had my freedom, my connection to the world I knew. As the shadows circled in, I realized I hadn't just stepped into danger, I had unwittingly joined the fight. Now, I had to navigate an unfamiliar landscape, with a decision that still loomed over me, heavy and unyielding. And with that understanding came an urgency. I had to find a way back and possibly save the one trapped on the other side. But the shadows were closing in, eager to claim me as their own. I stumbled in the strange realm, the vibrant chaos swirling around me. The shadows danced like phantoms, taunting me with their flickering forms. I tightened my grip on the glowing journal, still radiating warmth, a tether to the world I had just fled. "Jake!" The voice echoed, thin and haunting. It was unmistakably the voice from the woods, yet here it seemed to swirl around me, indistinct and everywhere. I could feel the shadows press in closer, their whispers curling around me like smoke. You should not have come here. The realization struck me. I had stepped beyond the threshold of reality into a shadowed limbo, a space where fear and unspeakable desires mingled. Figures shifted along the periphery, half-formed, glimpsed only as silhouettes against a backdrop of swirling darkness. I felt their eyes, countless and empty, watching my every move. "Find her!" A voice rang out, one I hadn't heard before. It pierced through the whispers, resonating with an intensity that forced the shadows to recede momentarily. "She needs you." "Who?" I shouted, searching the depths around me. "What do you want from me?" My heart felt heavy with fear and confusion, each pulse echoing with more urgency than the last. "Only you can break the barrier," the voice said again, clearer this time. I realized it was urging me toward one of the shifting shadows, a flicker of light emanating from it, nearly snuffed out by the encroaching darkness. My feet felt magnetic, pulling me closer. With a deep breath I pushed through, diving toward the shrouded figure. The shadows hissed and slithered away, but I couldn't look back. As I approached, the silhouette transformed into a form I recognized. The woman, her features distorted, yet somehow warm. Her outstretched hand glowed, a beacon in the surrounding gloom. "Help me," she implored, her eyes locked onto mine. "You are the key." I hesitated. The weight of recognition settled upon me. "You're trapped, aren't you? Just like the journal said." "Yes, trapped by the darkness, but only you can reverse it. I need your strength." "Then tell me how," I pleaded. With every word, I could feel the shadows pressing in closer, malevolence clawing at my resolve. "What do I need to do?" "Focus on the light. Use it against the barriers. Do not succumb to their voice." Her words rolled around me, urged me to fight. Before my mind could linger, I raised the journal high, feeling its weight against my palms. A surge of energy coursed through me, the warmth of the light wrapping around the edges of my fear. "Reach deep within," I whispered, recalling the glowing symbol from the pages. "To bind the darkness, to awaken the light." With renewed determination, I recited the incantation I had glimpsed from the journal. The shadows recoiled at the sound of my voice, defiant and resolute. For every word I spoke, a flicker of light burst forth. The shadows writhed and twisted, their forms losing shape in the brilliance of my words. "Break free!" I cried out, every fiber urging me onward. The woman's eyes widened, shining with hope, as energy pulsed around us, forcing the shadows back. Something deep began to shift within the wall of darkness encasing her, tendrils of light slicing through. The shadows clawed at my heels, screeching in fury. "You misunderstand your role," they howled in unison. "You will become one with the dark." But I stood firm. "Not today." Holding the journal, I directed its light toward the dissipating shadows. The brilliance intensified, illuminating the space and dispersing the darkness. Suddenly, the figures in the distance began to coalesce, drawing closer to me. "Help us!" they cried, voices and shadows mingling together in an overwhelming rush. They reached out of the darkness, stretching their hands toward me as if I were their only hope. The woman surged forward, enveloped in light. "You're the key, Jake. Focus, capture the darkness, for it is afraid." She glimmered with determination, and in that moment, I understood. The light wasn't just mine, it was a collective strength. With every ounce of will, I summoned the haunting whispers into a single command. "Shadows, surrender. You're bound by your own fear." The words echoed through the liminal space, resonating with the force of truth. With an explosive burst, the shadows recoiled, colliding against each other as they began to unravel and dissolve. The glowing forms that had once plagued me lost their significance, fragmenting into a blinding spectacle of shimmering light. The woman caught my gaze, her smile radiant as the barrier around her shattered, giving way to a white brilliance. She was free. "Now let's finish this," she called back, the darkness shattering beneath her. Together we surged toward the last remnants of shadow that threatened to reclaim me. Shoving the journal forward, I drew on every memory of the warmth and strength it provided. The flickering light wrapped around us, pulling the shadows apart as if they were made of mist. I felt her energy merge with mine. And then, with one last surge of defiance, I shouted, "You have no power here," as the light encased the remaining darkness like a shroud, banishing it to a distant realm from which it could not return. We stood together, engulfed in a radiance that washed over everything, reclaiming the space around us, allowing light to chase away fear. The shadows faded, whispering their final cries into oblivion. In that moment of stillness, the air felt different, tranquil yet charged with a promise. I looked back at the woman, her smile now glowing brighter than anything I had ever known. "You did it," she whispered. But then something tugged at the edge of my consciousness, a lingering presence, a question. What about those shadows? What if they come back? Her smile faltered, uncertainty blinking in her eyes. Some will always return. They are a part of us, but now we know how to confront them, together. Her words lingered in my mind, weaving uncertainty into the fabric of my final victory. I felt a stirring within me. I'd emerged victorious, yet the echoes of the darkness would always remain, like shadows lurking beneath sunlight, waiting and watching. I turned, facing the horizon, where strands of dusk met the dawn. Leaving one world behind, the ambiguity of what had happened sat heavier on my chest. The shadows had receded, but I couldn't shake the feeling that some questions would linger forever, haunting me in the corners of my thoughts. I moved on with the light still shining, but deep down I knew I had not completely escaped. The shadows might be out of sight, but would they ever truly be gone?